Okay, so so I'll talk about this video here. So this is fire starter, and that's Drew Barrymore. Um, who was an attachment to Tatum through the association of Drew Basido, being her, I believe that's her aunt. So Drew Barrymore means, in theory, she could bury more, like bury more people. Bury more is what it means. So the story I told previously about, potentially, her stumbling across a photograph at the same age as Leia as a potential story for um, how to put it that doesn't for it's either a complete stranger having to develop an emotional bond with me, or somebody who developed an emotional bond with your picture, and then us having to live forever. The story just seems a little bit better. So that's where I derived that story from. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just showing the clues as they may be. And I also have to be very extra cautious because what I'm about to show you here is just another, an elaborate story concocted by evil as a way to get me to focus on these three ladies when I should be focusing on the primary one, right? So I tend not to, I try not to um, let go of what I was originally investigating, because that's where I was investigating the past 7 years. That's where I've been investigating over here. But this recently, I've been showing these other three. So that's a representation of Tatum being a fire starter. So like a flower of fire. So Charlie, right here it's like now watch what you're doing, Charlie. That's what he says. Now watch what you're doing, Charlie. That's just a representation of in the event that this story that I'm being presented with is legitimate. Well, then it just means watch what you're doing, Tatum. In the event that all the facts are 100% genuine, then it means that watch what you're doing, because if grandmother is looking for a flower for me to marry because she doesn't want somebody to be infected with sexual sin from a previous partner, then you need to watch what you're doing. In other words, like be cautious. Speak the truth. If there's anything that resonates with the story I said, then you need to come forward and say yeah, it's true what he said. It's true. Um, I did find a picture. Yada yada yada. That type of stuff. That's all that means. Watch what you're doing, Charlie, or watch what you're doing, Tatum. So this here, it's like you bring her here so you can do your test. That's referring to here, like spiritual warfare. Um, Here is talking about Charlie has the power. Um, the power means like I'm assuming like the power of being able to become the mother creator. And then here it's like if I do something bad, will you still love me? So it's referring to um, her not coming forward to step up to the plate, but at the same time, because she has like an evil doppelganger spirit in the brain universe, referring to that evil doppelganger spirit in the brain universe doing something bad. But the theory is that by working with the evil spirits, um, the possibility of me harming the person's spirit by working with that evil spirit in the brain could have a quantum entanglement, meaning that spirit up top is quantum entanglement with the spirit on this earth, and in working with them, it's evil's way of kind of like trying to draw the energy out of that person to either make that bad spirit come down here and the good spirit go up, or make two bad spirits. So the spirit here is good, but the spirit up top is bad, and then working with that spirit kind of makes the spirit down here bad. Um, is a way to infiltrate the ranks. That's what I get out of that. Like if I do something bad, like work with you in spirit to infect Tatum's spirit down here, who is good with my deviancy. In other words, that's what I derive from that. So she could set things on fire. Something's happening. And then she says she can set things on fire with just a glance. So that refers to when you bind your soul to somebody, you look at them in the eyes, and when you have that simultaneous climax, the soul, I'm told, transfers from rides up the, like when the climax goes down the spinal cord, comes back up into the brain, the soul or the soul rides that particle or light waves into the other person's eyes, and there's an exchange of soul particles. So if Charlie or Tatum can set things on fire with just a glance, it's referring to having to, exchange souls, in other words, which would give her the ability to set things on fire, because if she became pregnant after we exchanged souls at some point in time, the pregnancy is like could shock all creation to death, because when her and I are 100% pure as the creators, and and if you haven't done the purification program, if she becomes pregnant, well then that fire is just basically in the spinal cord of the firstborn baby. That when that spinal cord pops into existence, there's going to be a great deal of electricity in the spinal cord of the baby, positive electricity from two positive creators, which could shock everyone in evil to death. Even the AI, like the molecular size Neuralink in the brain would get shocked with the positive electricity. Everything evil would perish. So that's what that's referring to. Like she can set things on fire. She can set things on fire with just a glance, meaning looking into my eyes, exchanging soul halves, and at some point in time becoming the mother of all creation and becoming pregnant. And it's the baby's pregnancy that will set things on fire. That's what that means. Something's happening. It's just with just a glance. It is a power she does not want. So that means that Tatum does not want that power. She does not want the responsibility of becoming the mother creator. I'm assuming because of my spiritual warfare tactics. It's coming from that perspective. However, this next part here is like they talk about controlling Charlie and maybe destroying Charlie. So that's like a how do I put it? It's a representation of having to work with evil spirits in the brain, like an evil spirit of Tatum, because they've cloned her up in the brain. And when I work with that spirit, there's a quantum entanglement with the spirit here, which could drain somebody's life force here. If the life force gets drained, then that person could theoretically have a climax and put themselves to sleep. And if that's the case, well then I have to really analyze things at a more level, meaning my three choices for new potential mates could be a more elaborate scheme from evil to get me to not focus on over here, go looking for my my top choice out in space somewhere, and then cloning her to bring her back to existence, but rather focusing one of these other three, whom I assume through the Flower of Fire story are good to go, when in fact it was a more elaborate plan by evil to trick me into choosing one of them so that I would drop the ball. So that's how I have to analyze things. It's nothing personal, people. It's just in a world where it was ruled by normalcy. This story would make sense. But if I go down that path and let's say I start dating with them, and without any concrete evidence of knowing whether or not it's the real deal, I could make a mistake. So that's where I'm at just a second. But this is a clue pointing me towards a fire starter. Because theoretically, Tim, you could be the fire starter, meaning you could be the one that sets the entire universe on fire because of the evilness. But, you know, I have to do my due diligence, and that's what I'm doing. So I've made this video to highlight my due diligence, so that mankind and you guys out there can be rest assured that I analyze things at a level that must be, understand that I cannot make a mistake. And if there's any truth to this part here of a spirit up here draining the energy of a spirit down here, and then that spirit down here, you know person falling asleep down here, and then I try to bind my soul to that person who's asleep, I don't know what could happen. So I'm just doing my due diligence, ladies. It's nothing personal. Just letting you know that, that's one possibility. The other possibility is, again, it's evil putting that stuff in my mind to tell you that, to throw mud on the situation, because they want me to drag my feet again because of the COVID issue. So if I'm taking a step back, like, these three girls, they're ready to go now. They are 100% human. There was no quantum entanglement that could hurt them or anything like that. And I take a step back, and I'm hesitant because I'm not 100% sure if I'm dealing with the real McCoy. And in 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, COVID gets out of control because of rabies, because of why? All because of this one potential clue of me, over analyzing and doing my due diligence too much, to where I kind of scare myself away. That could also be a trick of evil. So you need to look at it from that perspective as well, guys. That just because the story I told you, does make sense, it also makes sense that it's also a fear tactic from evil to get me to step back from my only three choices that I have at saving all creation.